Paul Daniel Ace Frehley is an American musician and songwriter best known as the former lead guitarist and co-founding member of the rock band Kiss. He invented the persona of the Spaceman, aka Space Ace, and played with the group from its inception in 1973 until his departure in 1982. Frehley left Kiss in 1982, but retained a 1/4 share in Kiss and could not release any solo projects until 1985 without losing that share. After leaving Kiss, Frehley embarked on a solo career, which was put on hold when he rejoined Kiss in 1996 for a highly successful reunion tour. Frehley's second tenure with Kiss lasted until 2002, when he left at the conclusion of what was originally purported to be the band's farewell tour. Outside Kiss, Frehley had commercial success, with his first solo album going platinum. His first album with his Frehley's Comet band was also a big seller. Frehley's Comet released 2 studio albums and 1 live EP before Frehley left the band to release his 1989 solo album, Trouble Walkin'. Paul Daniel Frehley was born and raised in the Bronx of New York City, in a musical family, formed the father of Dutch descent and mother of Cherokee descent. As a youth, Frehley was part of the Ducky Boys street gang. It was rumored that Blackie Lawless of the band Wasp was also the member of the Ducky Boys gang, where he supposedly first met Frehley, who was his good friend in teenage years, but it was later deemed lie by Frehley. Okay, those were wiki facts, and now I will make some assumptions. As you can see, Ace Frehley is extremely effeminate dude, and he's a good candidate, in my opinion, for being a MTF or male-to-female transgender. Although he's tall, he has very narrow shoulders, as narrow as his hips, and he has very slender long legs. He used to have very effeminate face, which could be the reason why his face was deliberately ruined by someone in order to hide his true physical sex. I already stated, in my previous videos, that I believe that the elites transgender themselves, in utero stages of their lives, before the second week of pregnancy, by administering artificial hormones, on the inside of the mother's womb, before the child forms its primary sexual characteristics, in other words penis and vagina. So, although they look as transgenders, if we were to look inside the elite members' pants, or underneath their skirts, we would find the sexual organ that correspond to the sex they have transgendered to. They must continue taking artificial hormones till the rest of their lives, or the secondary sexual characteristics, that develop mostly in the puberty, but continue to enhance during the rest of the lifetime, bit by bit, wouldn't develop, either, like boobs in women, beard in men etc. At first they transplanted some hair to his eyebrows so that they would look more bushy and give the impression that he has more prominent brow ridge than he has. Then they made his eyelids be more droopy, which also made him look somewhat more masculine. But, after that they went even further, and at the time when he apparently underwent some face reconstructive surgery, cause he was supposedly hurt in some bar fight, they probably detached the skin of his face and placed it back on in order to loosen connective tissue that attached the face to the skull and make the face look more droopier. They have also left some kind of cut marks on it, similar to the ones that Keith Richards acquired at one point in his lifetime, allegedly because of excessive drug use. Needless to say, both musicians look much more masculine now. There is also some type of Illuminati torture, according to Spritz Springmeier, where they detach the skin from the face from the victim in order to create trauma, but they have recently gave up on it, because it ruins face, and they just place hot wax on the face of the person instead and convince her, while under the influence of drugs, that she has no skin on the face, and then they remove the wax and put some mask on that alleviates the pain. That torture is called porcelain face programming, and the person is being told while she believes that she has no face, that if she ever leaves the organization, she will lose her face, because they will remove the mask they have placed on her. Not only he, but also the other members of the band Kiss look very effeminate, most extreme example being just the people that replaced Ace in the band, like Vinnie Vincent, now late Eric Carr and Peter Criss, but to the less extent than the previous two. Paul Stanley has certainly very effeminate face, and very beautiful when we are at it, but he is, as far as the body build goes, most successfully transgendered to the male sex, because he has shoulders wider than the hips, and strong muscular manly thighs. The story of how this band's logo originated is very interesting. There are different stories. According to some, Ace was the one who chose the name and draw both the first sketch and the final look of the band's logo, where two last letters S kinda remind of the Nazi SS troops insignia, because they are in the shape of thunderbolts. According to the others, Ace only drew the rough sketch of it, but Paul Stanley, who was actually of Jewish ancestry, alongside the other band member Gene Simmons, tweaked it a little bit more, by coming to the idea to make two SS perfectly parallel, and therefore making them look like Nazi SS, and that second story is generally accepted to be the truth. Such insignia belonged to notorious Hitler's SS, short for Schutzstaffel, paramilitary troops, which was the main organization behind the rounding up of Jews and sending them to the concentration camps, which also supervised those camps and committed war crimes that took place there. The government of West Germany considered their logo to be open provocation to them and allowed the band to pre-form in Germany only if they switch their 2SS for 2 backwards ZZ on their posters and albums there. But, the band nevertheless performed in all the other countries of the world with their official logo. What is interesting also is that Paul has supposedly accused Ace and Peter Criss at one point of being the anti-Semitic and racist for collecting some Nazi memorabilia in the band's early days and dressing up occasionally as Nazis and saluting to Hitler in front of other band members, but not until a lot of time has passed since the incident. The Kiss band members and former Kiss members are famous for slandering each other, not only regarding racial ideology, but pretty much everything, but they, nevertheless, always make up at the end and pre-form together again. You are all probably familiar with the rumor that the Kiss actually stands for the Knights in the Satan's Service, and them spraying the raw chicken blood on the audience from the balloons attached to the ceiling of the concert halls, that explode while they are performing, and them performing masked, while the masked persona of Gene Simmons is even called the Demon, and it spews fire on stage. Gene Simmons saying in an interview for the Circus magazine, that he wonders how the human flesh tastes like, as well as the song Heaven's on Fire has only lent credence to the rumors. Notice these quotes from Mace Frehley and how he sometimes states that he was only poor kid from Bronx, poor is being implied by him being from the Bronx, who made it big, and in the others he admits that he didn't even know how to read the notes, but that he could teach someone to make guitar smoke, and we know that he comes from the musical family, that he has learned to play guitar at the age of 13, when he allegedly stole it from his brother, who was classical guitarist, so that makes no sense whatsoever. And not to mention that mostly affluent people are into arts, partly due to the fact that it doesn't bring lot of money to the table, unless you have very good connections. He also, kinda indirectly, admits that he is a lifetime actor. He believes in global warming. Then, quite contradictory to what he previously stated, he claims that he always knew that he was destined to be a rock star. Now, why would some without music talent, that is actually poor, that was member of a gang, believe in any such thing? Those are from the same Pinterest profile. Apparently, the now deceased member of the band Panthera, Dimebag Darrell, who was supposedly killed by a crazy fan with a gun, whose murder was partially to blame for starting the whole "do crazy civilians have right to carry arms" narrative, which pretty much didn't exist up until that point, was a huge fan, back from his high school days, and used to apply makeup of the spaceman on before going to Kiss concerts. Since he was a huge fan, he often invited Ace to the strip club he and his brother used to own, where there would be occasions that Ace was so drugged out and drunk that he wouldn't remember whore performing fellatio on him in front of Dimebag and his wife, while being in his stupor. Why would that whore do that without any monetary compensation, given that he was both drunk, and therefore numb, and not particularly handsome, and furthermore, in front of other people, is beyond me. Ace considers Pete Townshend of the band The Who to be his favorite guitarist of all times, and he was also an idol for Blackie Lawless of Wasp, another band I covered. Well, Pete was caught at one point with child porn on his computer, and therefore was placed on the list of the suspected pedophiles. For some reasons he wasn't tried, but only interrogated by the police, and his defense was that he was doing a research for the book he was going to write about pedophilia, since he was a victim himself as a child. According to some stories, his grandmother was to blame, so the only thing he did is to use his credit card to download couple of pictures just so he could get the picture what are those children going through. Blackie went berserk because the other celebrities wouldn't take his side and defend him as fervently as he did when the alleged incident happened. If you remember, Wasp covered the song "The Real Me" of the band The Who, that Pete wrote, that has some interesting lyrics.
This guy sometimes wishes that the Satan would fall down, but the song is called Fallen Angel, and that implies that the fall has already happened. Didn't you notice that, Todd? But, the more interesting is that Todd not only knows that the Satan has been up, like we all do, but he has actually seen him flying. How old is Todd actually? Is it only Todd's body singing, inhabited with the spirit of some ancient man? When he says that he's tired of Satan's acting and that he is not even trying, he kinda implies that the Satan is way too good for God and for all of us, and that he's only pretending that he has lost a war with God. And then he says that any dreams of hope are dashed all away, but that isn't supposed to mean that the dreams of paradise are dashed away, but only the dreams that Satan would stop being such a great actor, captivating us all the time. So he'll take down Satan, which is supposedly still flying high, down, so he could see how madly these guys are worshipping him here on Earth for all of his excellence and splendor. But again, one could understand it completely differently, that Satan is too arrogant for being the brilliant individual that he, supposedly, is, so maybe we should take him down and teach him some modesty, take away his crown, at least for a couple of days, if nothing If he would even be aware of how we, down here, live, and not just being like that happy prince from Oscar Wilde's novel, he would actually lead us on the road to heaven. But, I doubt in the second theory. Anyway, this song definitely is not about a woman. See, Todd has been many times alone waiting for Satan, but many times he couldn't care less. I wonder if he has some other lover on the side. Notice that Frehley has many upside down stars on his tights. This "you've got a hold" sounds awfully lot like "you've got a hole." So basically Todd is loving Satan only because he's afraid of him, because he is shaking when he thinks of a certain hole. Well, Todd, Satan won't make the fool out of you, if you don't make fool out of yourself or out of him. Just follow the rules, be on the square, and stop playing the blame game. Take care, especially, that you don't blame your dark master. I am surprised how you don't mind sharing him with all Bello, but I guess, that's just what you are like.
Here we have, of course, lots of babes, that are supposed to convince us that these guys are real biological men, beside promoting sexual promiscuity to the masses. Notice how Todd takes a bite at the invisible apple. So what he is saying is, hell yeah, committing original sin was definitely worth of becoming the handler of all these hotties. I'd do it any time again. My meter's running, I still got lot of living to do, and I live 5 days to your 1, and you know it's true. So what they are basically saying is that you should join them, leaving out, of course, that they also make human sacrifices every now and then, get raped and tortured for the purposes of mind control since the earliest childhood, and for the pleasure of some higher in the hierarchy perverts, work very tirelessly. Must be available 24/7, sing what they are told, speak what they are told, perform in orgiastic sex, share their partner with others, sacrifice their firstborn, transgender their children from in utero stage of life, second week of pregnancy, into the opposite sex, and pray that they will be awakened out of their mind control eventually to be used as a handler and programmers of another slaves, if they are at all capable to do that. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, allow their bodies to be possessed by some reptilian overlords and be used for God knows what purposes while they were locked away in another compartment of their brain. Furthermore, you'll have to partake in all that, too. Big deal.
Listen, got money, got fame, got
You got money and fame and everything to play this game. Wait a minute, Ace. I thought you got that from the Satan. I didn't know that you needed some startup capital to join. So what does that Satan gives you at all, except that he takes something away from you? So you basically have no sorrow and shame because you are insane? So beside having the blast with all the girls in the world and money can buy, you're insane as well. So is it you that's enjoying it all? Or are you multiple and you don't even remember afterwards? It's never easy being crazy. LOL, I am going to come to the conclusion that being crazy is a lifestyle choice and not a mental condition. So you choose to be crazy, right? Oh, maybe you think being crazy as in being crazy enough to accept being a someone's little bitch? Is that what you are saying? I guess it depends, everything taken into consideration. Do you gain more than you lose? Could you be even aware of what you are gaining and what are you losing if you are under mind control? I mean, when do they break it down for you and admit everything they have done to you, and see if you want to continue having business with them at all? Are you even presented with such a choice? I have heard that the multiple TV present in the music videos represent mind control. That is, many pictures being played on many screens represent different personalities that have been inserted in your head. The victims of the practice, that is to say, of mind control, go often to strictly supervised mind control psychiatric institutions for reprogramming, and very often even before that, for some petty reasons, like disobeying their parents. You can bet that they put them often in those straitjackets, whether they have done something to deserve it, or not. I mean, how else are they supposed to program them? Do you know what would be a very good idea? Programming those beauties to slurp your jerkin at least 3 times a day, from underneath the table while you're eating, and then one more time at the club at night, while you are plastered and your friends are watching, without them ever asking for you to be eating at the Y in return. Hell, if I were you, that would be just enough alter egos for me. Wouldn't you agree? And you should keep them in your cellar, too, dry and cold if possible. I would say in chains. A real programmer doesn't really need that. When I look at these Luciferian women, at least the ones that are in the music and movie industry, I very often wonder what is that they actually get out of it all. I often seen them eating bananas in the videos, but are their kitties ever being told a secret? GZ, I guess you should have let those male nurses in on the game, instead of letting them manhandle you like that. I am sure that they would consider getting a little bit crazy themselves.
This song, of course, is a bait for the romantic female audience to start listening to them just so they could, further down the road, do a switch on them and overwhelm them with all the other songs about Satanism and how good it actually is, especially for the women. I bet there are some still out there who remember this song, and who could gouge someone's eyes out, if that someone were to tell them that these guys are even slightly bad. It is all about Todd being crazy in love with these broad, like no men have ever been before, although we know Todd, and therefore we find that hard to believe. Except when it comes for one certain individual, who is flying high somewhere at the moment and should definitely come down to see how much we love him down here. It's funny, thinking back now, how, at that time, all the women wanted to hear from their man, with whom they married for the most part because of the societal and parental pressure that was placed on them, and were to be considered, at least, a little bit slutty, if their partner were to leave them for whatever reason, that he isn't ever going to leave them, and now, when they acquired greater civil rights, they can't wait to get divorced. Makes you think about how skillful they are at pretending to be in love with a guy, right? Yeah, lose the bad thought, push them all away, unless you want to join the ride and become really rich and famous. Then you can dance in my video, while under mind control, with whole bunch of other hot-looking chicks, and have a blanks in memory before and after making that recording, that last for hours on end, when you probably did a blow bang on bunch of dudes, some of them really old fellas, to whom Todd owed something. Hope and dreams will take their shape. I am shooting for the stars and diamonds in your eyes. How poetically said. What a flatterer. Could it be a totally different personality of Todd singing now, maybe some romantic alter ego, used only when needed to drag new female members into the sect?
This is a song from Ace Frehley's solo album Trouble Walking. It was co-written by Paul Stanley, Desmond Child, and Holly Knight. How many people does it takes to write one kid's song, for God's sake? What is even more interesting is that it was released by Bonnie Tyler in 1988, just so that it would be released by no less than 3 different bands in 1989, Ace Frehley being among them, and later in the year it was also released by the band Kiss, and sang by Paul Stanley. Makes you wonder what's that all about, doesn't it? Anyway, I think the Ace sings it the best. Notice the reversed pyramid on the cap of the kid, who is just about to enter the subway train, called Desire, apparently, and then fall most passionately in love. Notice the checkered board design on the subway walls and a stage that looks like the reverse pyramid, on which Ace is singing.
Ride on a streetcar named Desire. His fate was sealed. She could have seen him coming like 100 other guys. It was no big deal. Rosa had a lover on the shady side of town. He was king of the streets. She was his possession like a jewel on his crown.
Well, this is a song about 2 kids who fall in love, that ends up in a tragedy, clearly bait and switch for the young preteen and teen children, gateway drug for the other Frehley's songs. The kids in the song behave, for some reason, like the adults. The girl, Rosa, is being the girlfriend of a gang member, although she looks like 12, and her boyfriend, the gangbanger, Tito, looks like 16. And Johnny looks like as he is 12. Let's not forget that Ace Frehley was purportedly in Ducky Boy's gang when he was 11. That gang allows only Irish Catholics in, but for some reason Ace was in it, too, although he is allegedly half Dutch half Cherokee.
Johnny, better run, better hide your heart, better hold on tight, say your prayers, 'cause there's trouble tonight. You're running love, with desire, better hide your heart, 'cause you're playing with fire.
When pride and love fight with desire, better hide your heart 'cause you're playing with fire. Now, is this about God and the devil? Sounds a little bit like it is. We can see Babylon written on the graffiti, behind Tito's back, so I guess he represents the devil here. Let's not forget that he is also from the shady side of town. And here we can see that the devil, Tito, is preparing to shoot Johnny, the god, because we heard that Rosa is messing with him. Is this song a warning? Maybe, to all the scarlet women that are out there, not to try to flee the Illuminati? It certainly could be considered as one. Anyway, the devil is acting towards this girl Rosa as she is his possession. Let's also recall that God is often the epitome of love, while the devil is the epitome of desire and fake pride. Makes you wonder, what are they doing still with that guy, called Satan, if he is such as they admit in this song? Do they want to end up like Rosa and Johnny?
Went out that Rosa's messing with someone. It was on the street. Tito looked for Johnny with a vengeance and a gun. Johnny, better run, better hide your heart, better hold on tight, better say your prayers, 'cause there's trouble tonight. You're fighting love, better with desire, better hide your heart, 'cause you're playing with fire.
And Tito finds normally 2 lovebirds straight away, on the rooftop. I guess he is smarter than God because the god didn't even see it coming, obviously intending to kill them. How is that possible when the God is immortal is beyond me? He says to God that he should say his prayers. I wonder who is God praying to? Notice the hellfires on Tito's Cadillac. Notice the pyramid on the rooftop of the church, that can be seen while Tito is climbing. Also notice the ladders, cause ladders and staircases are Masonic symbology and are often depicted standing in between the twin pillars, Jachin and Boaz, in the place where the central pillar should be. You should admit that the lovebirds could have kicked him of the ladders very easy at this point, and got rid of him, but they supposedly don't know that he is coming, although in the video we could see them on the rooftop, looking at Tito. One would think that that would be the whole idea behind hiding on a rooftop, cause, from a strategical perspective, rooftop isn't otherwise a good place to hide, since there is nowhere to flee. Maybe, it is just that Johnny is too nice, so nice that it borders with stupidity.
Johnny's holding Rosa on a rooftop in the night. As time stood still, they couldn't hear him coming till he had them both inside. You could feel a chill. A shot rang out like thunder and the blood was on her hands. With nothing won, if someone has to die, so they finally understand.
To make matters worse, Johnny has a gun, but the Rosa manages to disarm him, just as the Tito is about to climb up, and then she runs for Tito's gun, to do the same thing to him, as well, but doesn't end up in preventing him from shooting Johnny. Johnny also seems to be very scared, it even appears that he might be crying. And let's be honest here, Tito is the most handsome here. It's hard to believe that he would lose his head for Rosa as much as that he would waste a bullet on a little crybaby like Johnny and risk any prison time that way.
Better hide your heart, better hold on tight. Say your prayers, 'cause it's trouble tonight. We're riding up, back with desire. Better hide your heart, 'cause you're playing with fire.
When someone lies there dying, lovers finally understand. How the hell can Johnny understand anything if he is laying dying? Isn't there that tarot card called Lovers, that represents Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden with a tree of knowledge behind them, and the serpent winding its way up its trunk, preparing to offer Eve an apple? Weren't people immortal up until a point when the Eve accepted that apple from the serpent? And then, after they gained knowledge, they lost their immortality and started dying.
We can see a shooting star falling down onto the streets of New York, and then, all of a sudden, Ace Frehley and his band appear from some back alley. It's 2 a.m. on the downtown streets, which means that it's just an hour away from the witching hour, which is at 3 a.m., when the Satanists usually perform their rituals. There on the corner 2 strangers meet, and then until daybreak they're gonna love, and before the light a heart may break, there in the night, the lyric go. Let's analyze that, corner is a part of a crossroad, and the crossroad is, according to folklore, the place where you go to strike a deal with the devil. Makes you wonder then who the strangers are then, doesn't it? Maybe devil and then some nobody from the streets? I wonder why will the devil break that someone's heart? Perhaps because he is going to ask for a sacrifice.
There in the night, look in the alleys along the road, it's there the losers stand. There in the ring they bide their time, hustling what they can. They beg just to get that bottle in their hand. There in the night, somewhere in the night. Oh, how they do what they do.
So in the alleys the losers stand and they bide their time in the ring hustling what they can. So they are apparently the ones the devil will try to strike a deal with. Notice the towel with a picture of Elvis on it, that the hustler, which is wearing for some reason the hat of the error-free Masonic Lodge, is trying to sell to Ace. Devil is apparently going to save them from looking at the bottom of the bottle. So he is kinda good guy, I guess.
What they do, just to get through. There in the night, there on the street in the heart of town, a lady in black, she turns around. In the night, yeah, stares at the man in the Cadillac.
Oh, how they do what they do just to get through. I guess the devil is going to offer them something better than sleeping in the streets, drinking booze and hustling? Notice the homeless person on the staircase. Notice the t-shirt Ace is wearing, with the symbol of the age of Aquarius on it. Maybe the devil will try to strike the deal with all of us in the age of Aquarius. Devil drives slowly by the lady in black, in Cadillac, implying that he has some relationship with the higher echelons of the society.
At the man in the Cadillac, he drives by but he'll be back for the night. There in the night, see the guy along the road, who can he be? Wait a while, he'll turn around, see the man is me. 'Cause when I sing my dreams will set me free. There in the night.
This scene with the lady and the Cadillac reminds a little bit like of a customer picking up a prostitute. Ace says that the guy in the limo had driven away now, but that he'll be back later, so apparently some grooming is needed first. She actually doesn't see the guy in the Cadillac, despite the lyrics, because the limo has darkened glasses, but she sees reflection of herself in one of the windows, or to be more precise, herself, but only rich and famous, which she would become once she would sign the deal. And then Ace asks if she sees the guy walking down the street that will turn around, which is something that he does, and that guy is he, which kinda happens at the same time, that the lady is staring at her reflection. So it makes one wonder if Ace and the devil one and the same guy, or is Ace just some kind of a devil's advocate?
Somewhere in the night. Oh, how they do what they do, just to get through. There in the night, when the sun goes down and the light grows dim, slowly moving for the kill.
'Cause when I sing my dreams will set me free. In other words, you want to live by your desires, go ahead, otherwise you'll only suffer. Then he sings, when the sun goes down, and the light goes dim, slowly move in for the kill. In other words, go for it, no one needs to know, just do it in the night time, when it's harder to see what is that you're really doing, dark here being the metaphor for the secretiveness.
If you would come back again, it would take away this pain. But I don't know if you ever will. Love in the night would feel so
If you come back again, it would take away this pain, but I don't know if it ever will. Means that the losers probably had to made some blood sacrifice, 'cause, on the one hand, pain would go away if they would come back onto the streets, because they would remove themselves from the bad company, and on the other hand, it actually wouldn't, reason being, that nothing can undo one thing, and that one thing is murder, and that's what they have actually committed. Behind the guy, that is just about to sell his soul, stands written on the wall "Girls," suggesting that that's what he is doing it for. Did you notice the lightning bolt on the Ace's guitar? Limo is now crossing the road, which Ace and his band are just about to cross as well, and they see their reflection in the car's glass, depicting them being the successful rock band, and later on in the video homeless person is looking at them as if there's all of a sudden something unusual about them. Oh, could you do what you do? Yes, you, only you means that they are now inviting all of us to think, whether or not we are living the lifestyles of our expectations, which is likely not to be the case, and whether we want to join the club. Then, after he sold his soul, Ace approaches the girl, that, at first, refused the deal, and offers her a hand, and she intrinsically understands, what has he done and who does he represents now, and accepts it this time. Maybe, even because of Ace, because she likes him. And the limo drives away, now that it has finished its mission.
Stop looking down and look up and be proud of it. Don't be a fool and keep taking all that shit. It's time you saw that it's wrong to be pushed aside. Stand up and fight and you soon will realize.
This song is another grooving attempt. Stop looking down, look up and be proud of it. Don't be a fool and keep taking all that shit. It's time you saw that it's wrong to be pushed aside. Stand up and fight and soon you will realize. One could wonder, why don't I consider it just ordinary self-empowerment song, just expressing Ace's sympathy for the weaklings of the species, although he, himself, is doing well. One could consider that the only thing going on here is that he is trying to make them feel better about themselves, to assure them that there are other people out there who were stepped on and who, nevertheless, climbed up to the top, by showing their opponents that they were not to be underestimated. And that only thing one has to do, therefore, is to change one's attitude towards the world and oneself. Well, because of what is to follow next. He calls the underdogs, or the people that are downtrodden, and somebody else's doormats, fools, which is often not the case. Just on the contrary. The downtrodden are probably even the smarter individuals among the people. It's just that the enemy is a whole network of individuals colluding together, impossible to beat, possibly even beings of somewhat superior intelligence, and definitely of superior technology to our own. Consider humankind a wolf pack. They have set up this particular social dynamic in place, in order to oppress the nosy, foul-mouthed, assertive, forever suspecting bastards, that alpha males and females, champions of the humankind, are, by nature, just in case that some of them actually survive the wars they put in place every 2 generations or so. If there's none of them, well then there are always betas to torment, for they are the second most dangerous. But, calling one a fool, does strike a nerve, and could get one going for the bait, 'cause no one wants to be considered a fool. Here he paints a picture of what is it to feel like a winner. It's just like when you have a girl and she finally allows you to penetrate her, instead of leading you on. He also connects the flaw of being hesitant with being the loser, and that's all because he wants you to make a hasty and inconsiderate move.
Always remember your strength comes from deep inside. The world's a joke, so beware you could lose your mind. So don't be fooled by the lies lots of people say. Trust in yourself and you surely will find a way.
Always remember your strength comes from deep inside. In other words, you are a shallow person if you don't respond to your survival instincts. They are placed deep within your subconsciousness with a reason. The need for self-affirmation is set up to help separate wheat from chaff. And if you don't respond to it, well, you're chaff. Remember that the sign of Virgo, which is a sign with the strongest power of discernment, is most frequently considered to be holding wheat in her right hand that shows toward the heaven, and Terra in the other, left, hand, that she points towards earth, and according to some signifies that way, that all that die won't go to heaven, but that the some will go to hell. Because God speaks about separating the wheat from the chaff in the final days. But the consensus hasn't been reached about what she is exactly holding in which hand, and according to some other theories, she holds wheat in her left hand and palm leaf in her right hand, and therefore represents the cycle of nature. Seed goes into the ground, the palm tree is born, leaf is being picked and given as an offering to the god. She also reflects as above so below Hermetic principle, and she is celebrated among the Masons as the goddess Columbine. But here's the catch-22, the world's a joke, so beware you may lose your mind. In other words, it's not worth fighting for it, if you want to make it, because it's all framed, and you may even lose your mind by trying to defeat much stronger opponent. So don't be fooled by the lies lots of people say. In other words, don't believe to the majority of the people, which say that it's easy to succeed if one is feisty. Trust in yourself and you surely will find a way. And he once again reassures one that the self-confidence is a way, but since he has laid out what he has previously laid out, one is by now surely to conclude that only certain ways of getting to the top are the right way, through the help of a certain individuals and organizations, and that being self-confident is realizing that they are the ones that should become the means to your end.
she's made of shadows that live at night. Oh, I dream of things no one would dare. Last night she to me for a second time, through the wall, suspended in the air. Okay, it's obvious already from here that he is speaking about a ghost. I actually had no idea that he is mentioning ghost in this song, although I knew about the song, because I haven't read the lyrics until recently, and therefore I haven't included this song in my video about incubi and succubi in music. I simply thought that it's about some woman that likes to experiment in bed and that she is therefore far ahead of her time. And I thought that she, being made of shadows, is simply a metaphor. She is new kind of lover, she makes love like no other, she came to me from a long time ago, and I don't want to know that she's a ghost. And these lyrics here, claiming that she came from a long time ago, always confused me. And then it hinted to me that she could be Anunnaki or Elohim, someone like Goddess Inanna, and that's the reason for her being modern, while being from the past, at the same time. And then I looked at lyrics and I found out that there is much more to them than I originally thought. Okay, so ghost, if you'd believe it, makes love like no other. And it's interesting how Todd here doesn't want to admit to himself that she is a ghost. I wonder why, whether he thinks that it could have some consequences for him in the long run, like experiencing the God's wrath by not being allowed to enter into heaven, which is something I doubt, or the mere fact that if he would admit it to some other person, he or she would consider him to be crazy.
She knows my secrets when we're alone. Oh, she plays them out like a last night she woke me up with a touch so close. Can it be she's playing me for keeps?
She knows my secrets when we're alone. She plays them out while I'm asleep. Last night she woke me up with a touch so cold. Can it be she's playing me for keeps? So I only suppose that ghost is possessing him, and making him believe that they are two separate bodies making love, while she is actually in his head, and as a result of using his brain, probably reading his thought, as well. Apparently, she doesn't use that against him, but she only reads his sexual fantasies and plays them out, while he's asleep, so she probably gives him a blowjob. But succubus experience is according to some being played out in the phase of the sleep when we dream and according to others just before waking up, so it could be that. It's funny, how in this particular case, of paranormal romance in action, her cold touch, instead of her warm touch, is a sign that she's really into him. Or maybe, she's just a reptilian?
I got it feeling inside, about to drive me half wild. I'm not afraid of it. Think I like the taste of it. We're gonna get it on tonight. Things are feeling oh so right. It makes me tingle inside.
He has a feeling that he's a stranger in a strange land, but it makes him tingle inside. That is, feel just great, and he wants to get it on with this girl. Stranger in a Strange Land is, by the way, a science fiction novel by Robert A. Heinlein from 1961, which was very popular, apparently, among the hippies, during the LSD frenzy era. It speaks about this guy, who was born and raised on Mars, who comes in his early adulthood to the planet Earth, brought by the second spacecraft, that was sent from Earth's end to study Mars, without any astronauts that were originally sent to Mars on the first Earth expedition, but obviously child of one of those astronaut bears. He has some psychic abilities developed, telepathic and telekinetic, and ability to teleport, that earthly people don't. He comes to the post-World War III Earth, where the United Nations rule, where the nations are disarmed, but there are still many religious cults, that kinda dominate the Earth's culture, among them the Fosterites, similar to our Satanists, that become subject of particular interest to the Martian guy, especially that on Mars everyone believes that everyone is their own god. It's kinda similar to what Aleister Crowley thought. Martians, supposedly, also don't worry about the afterlife, 'cause they have the ability to stay alive somehow in discorporated form after death and communicate to their still living descendants higher knowledge, similar to ascended masters of Madame Blavatsky. From there you start to suspect, that this guy called Michael could be possessed by one such entity. He accepts the teaching of the Fosterites, that debauchery should be permitted, but only remolds it into his own cult by mixing it with some Martian beliefs, and he calls it the Church of All World, because he becomes aware in the meantime that the Martians are much higher evolved than humans and that they will kill them or even destroy the whole planet, just like they did with the fifth planet in our solar system before, if he doesn't raise human level of consciousness to the Martian one. After Fosterites kill him for blasphemy against their church, he takes over the planet Earth through his faithful followers, commanding them in his discorporated form, which, while being the members of his church, acquired the same psychic abilities that he had. Have they became the hosts for the same entities or Martian discorporated spirits, like I suspect the original Martian guy was? These Martian spirits sound similar to that Gnostic archons. Is this that next spiritual evolution that Theosophists and New Agers are all talking about, after which the Earth's population will remain decimated because not everyone will be ready to evolve? In 2012, U.S. Library of Congress named this novel, by the way, as the one of the 88 books that were the most influential in shaping the America. Notice how 88 is very similar to 2SS. And neo-Nazis have sometimes 88, that stands for SS, tattooed on their arms.
It makes me tingle inside. So give me more, give me more. I'm a stranger in a strange land. I'm not afraid of the kind that you taste and things you really gotta understand. I'm not abusing the girl because I'm choosing it.
We are going to get it on tonight. Things are feeling oh so right probably makes you wonder now whether he is talking about genocide or making love, right? I'm not afraid of it, kinda like the taste of it makes you probably wonder why would he be afraid of it, he is what he is. Unless he lends out his own body to some alien entity, during the process of being possessed by whom, his main personality sinks in the subconsciousness. And then he doesn't even know, what is that the alien does to the others or to himself through the medium of his own body. I'm not abusing it, girl, because I'm choosing it makes you wonder again why would he be abusing or even choosing to be a stranger, you are either one or you are not. Perhaps, because he is not speaking on behalf of himself, but on behalf of disincarnate entity that possesses him from time to time, that rewards him with social status for his service toward him. He is not abusing the alien, because the alien is actually abusing him, and he is choosing it out of convenience.
10 o'clock. Really feel the need to rock. I think I got it now. No one has to show me how. I'm feeling more at home. I don't feel the need to roam. Everything's in the right place.
I feel more at home, I don't feel the need to roam, everything is in a right place. Exactly, because their agenda is closing to its completion, All the pawns have been set in place, humans have been desensitized to the many of the stuff that they intend to implement, the ball is ready to roll, might as well stay here instead of going back to Mars.
Feeling is right, there's no need to fight. I'd rather make love to you. So come along for the ride, I wanna see you hide. You can please me while I'm pleasing you. Yeah. Now here I come.
When the feeling is right, there's no need to fight. I'd rather make love to you, so come along for the ride, don't wanna see you hide, you can please me while I'm pleasing you. Makes you wonder what the hell does this got to do with what I previously stated about this song. This sounds more like some Venusian spirit than the Martian one. He just wants to make love with this girl, not war, right? If that indeed were the truth, then why does he tell her that there is no need for her to hide? Why should she hide from the creatures that only want to make love? And why does he even needs to invite her for the ride? I mean, would you hesitate to go for a ride of love? And as far as the you can please me while I'm pleasing you goes, of course one would say that to the woman he likes, it doesn't matter even if he is an alien and wants to destroy her race. He could easily save just one person or even a couple of them. And he does say that it's only because the feeling is right, doesn't he?
In this song we are basically being reminded that the monsters were real all along, like vampires, Asuras, Nagas, werewolves, aliens, dragons, demons, witches, Satanists, mermaids, giants, dwarfs. Nothing is out of those is just a fruit of collective imagination. How could you even believe any such thing? Could any of you even explain what the hell mass hysteria is even supposed to mean? Where is the end of hypocrisy when it comes to labeling people that tell you stuff you don't have patience for or care not to listen to, as crazy? It all turned out to be true, just in case you haven't noticed it yet, through loads and loads of indirect evidence. Come on people, get it together. If someone were to catch one of these things for real, he would be killed and probably eaten. Why would anybody need to get hurt to pass a point across to you? And why would ancient people at all invent such stuff, if they didn't have spare time on their hands like we today have, given that they were much more primitive, like history told us that they supposedly were, if they worked almost every hour of every day in their lives? When did they have the time? Todd says it here the best. You know there's something out there, just like those things under the bed, like in you know, but you just pretend that you don't know, otherwise you would be considered crazy like the person that fear monsters that come from underneath their beds. How then to explain children's supposedly irrational fears of seeing something under the bed? Come on, are the kids actually crazy? Why don't we lock them all in padded rooms? Children see the things the older people don't see. They have much more neuron pathways open in that early part of life than the adult person has at any point of life. That's why they learn so fast.
Your eyes are dead and broken, fixed in a state.
want to wake up, but both pinch and the pin, they pull blood. And why is that so? 'Cause it isn't a dream. Your eyes are dead and broken, fixed in a stare, without a blink. Because you are, like in that Bible quote, watching but not seeing, listening but not hearing. In other words, your power of discernment sucks. And that's all because you scared people never find anything out. Courage is to act, but to act you need to admit the truth first upon which you could act, otherwise you are just playing crazy, waiting for someone else to solve your problem. You see but don't believe it, like Winnow swearing of a drink. You see, Winnow is either a guy who whines a lot, or in this particular case hobo, or the homeless guy, who is at the same time a drunkard, who is used to drinking cheap drinks, especially cheap wine, and then even if you offer him something better he is likely to refuse it, because he is only accustomed to the wine he drinks every day. So that's what's the person that knows, but won't believe it, is like. He is so used to getting tapped on the shoulder by different useful idiots of the system and proud because of all the trivial nonsense that he figured out during his lifetime, and because of which he considers himself to be a genius, and doesn't want to let anything new into his system, although he'd be a smarter guy if he'd only try, but he won't because it just might offend that useful idiot that tapped him on the shoulder and then no one would be there to love him. You live in fear of daybreak, some warmth and comfort from the sun, all sense of time escapes you. These all means, like I previously stated, that the person that doesn't want to see or to believe what he sees is simply a coward. The one who sees the trouble first, must react and do something first. So the coward thinks that he is very smart because of doing nothing and that way he is getting away from all the trouble. But there is less heroes than cowards, and theirs comes a day every now and then when they get completely exterminated. Come on, what are the wars here for? And then the window of opportunity closes for everybody else who just stood aside and did nothing for the whole time, too.
When I wake they're always there, waiting just to freely please me. Come on, this is now supposedly about real dolls. Grown man is playing with dolls? The dolls are mind-controlled sex kittens, who are actually real brainwashed individuals, who do to him whatever he pleases, whenever he used the right trigger word. If he is an important individual in the Illuminati circles, he probably gets a couple of them just for himself for free. This first verse means that they give him a blowjob when he wakes up. While I wash, they're occupied, cleaning things so sweetly neatly. This means that they apply soap, rub him under the shower, give him a hand job, suck him off and then wash him. That's how they're occupied. Furthermore, these lyrics, here, is him paraphrasing the little girls that collect real dolls, that pretend that their dolls are really cooking and cleaning and driving cars and dressing up and combing their hairs on their own, although they are not, but the girls are doing it for them. But Frehley is not getting here too involved into the character of a little girl playing with her dolls like one might like you to believe. Trust me. When I play they play with me, willing to do anything. Here he says that they play with him, reason being, that they are actually alive persons and not the dolls. Dolls that are toys don't play with anybody, only people play with them. The action is one-sided. And they are willing to do anything, because of the reasons I already mentioned.
While I sleep, they keep me warm, nestled right beside me, tightly. As the sun begins to rise, they prepare my morning bounty.
I love my dolls, they'll never leave me happily. Notice how he says that they would never leave him happily. It's because they don't have free will, power of making choices, they are under spell, enchanted, under mind control. While I'll sleep they'll keep me warm. GZ, this Frehley's dolls hang around his bed surely a lot, they sleep, keep him warm, satisfy him, please him, etc., in disproportionately high percent, to the ordinary girls' toys that dress up, comb their hair, do the makeup, go shopping, drive cars, raise babies, and nothing of those happens anywhere near their beds. Nestled right beside me, tightly. Oh, here he goes again. LOL. As the sun begins to rise, they prepare my morning bounty. I am open to interpretations, as far as this verse goes. I guess it is some porn jargon? Maybe they are giving him blowjobs, something like 2 girls 1 cup thing, or doing a threesome with him, I really don't know.
As I eat, they wait on me, making sure I'm satisfied. I love my dolls, you must believe me, it's plain to see, they really love me. I love my dolls, they'll never leave me happily.
As I eat they wait for me, making sure I'm satisfied. Well, I guess they need to stay thin, and getting a blowjob under the table is something Ace surely wouldn't miss. And they are getting their share of healthy nourishment that way anyway, because the sperm is full of protein and very low on fat. But, I just don't know where are they getting their vitamins that way from. But wait. He is mentioning eating. Could he be eating them out, too? Could such an egotistical perv draw some satisfaction out of satisfying someone else? Do they at all reach orgasm when under mind control? I likely doubt it. And then they even need to clean the plates afterwards, they couldn't achieve it all even if they wanted to. I love my dolls, you must believe me. He says that probably because to people around him it appears that there is something fishy going on in his relationships and that he really doesn't love the girls he's quite frequently seen hanging around fault with. It's plain to see they really love me. Well, of course, when they are programmed to love you.
When friends come over, they're astonished by the sight. So many dolls in just one place gives them a fright. Don't understand why they feel so uncomfortable around my dolls.
And now we hear little girls' laughter. They probably came by to see if Frehley's doll collection is bigger or more beautiful than theirs. And then some other grown-up friends are there, too. Could you imagine that? When friends come over they are astonished by the sight, so many dolls in just one place just gives them a fright. Don't understand why they feel so uncomfortable around my dolls. They are probably at first positively astonished, thinking that that's what they are going to get for themselves when they lay their blood oath, bunch of dolls they can use in whatever way they like and pimp out to whomever they like, but shortly after that they just get concerned, thinking that they might actually end up themselves like that. You know, with all the cloning and stuff, and computers becoming far more advanced, and programming with the help of harmonics. One can never be too sure. But, then again maybe it's just the fear of being lynched by the mob, if it ever finds out. God only knows that they are not afraid of jail, 'cause their friends in the places of power would arrange for them to get that get out of jail free ticket in no time. hear how loud the girl choir becomes now? These poor girls are not even getting it, they are not getting it, that they are not singing about their plastic dolls, but about themselves. That they are in this song to be displayed as mind control subjects par excellence, because not even singing about the tortures that they've endured is waking them up, which means that the trauma has been successful, and that the part of the brain that has suffered a trauma has been successfully walled off with an amnesiac barrier from the rest of the system.